Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads. My reading week has been nothing short of disastrous. I had 2 reading plans this week, and they both blew up in my face. Let's get going. So my initial plan for this week was to read Erasure by Percival Everett and Lives of the Ancient Egyptians by Toby Wilkinson. I started with Erasure by Percival Everett. I have long wanted to read Percival Everett. I've heard a lot of great things about him. Last year, I read his breakthrough novel, The Trees, which unfortunately I hated. But I didn't want to give up. So I looked to Everett's backlist, and I picked up about a few weeks ago, Erasure and Telephone, and I decided to read Erasure this week. Erasure is a satirical novel targeting the publishing industry. Thelonious Monk Ellison is an English professor and novelist whose work is critically praised, but not terribly commercially successful. His work is criticized as not being black enough. Over the course of the novel, a book or novel that is black enough is written by I think it's a debut novelist that I think is a goad and there's later a financial need to write that novel. Unfortunately, I did not read far enough into the novel to actually find out what exactly is being talked about, because I bailed around the 40 or 50 page mark. So to the point that I bailed, Ellison had come to Washington, D.C. for a conference. His mother and sister live in Washington, and he went to the conference largely as an excuse to see them. And they have a few outings together, a few visits, and the novel never gripped me. It never interested me. And the chapters are kind of broken up into very short scenes that I thought was just too choppy. And I didn't quite like the first person narrator, or sort of the usage of the first person. Because, of course, since this is a satire of the American publishing industry, it's a bit meta. So, unfortunately, this is a second miss for me with Everett. So, I still have Telephone. I might get to it later this year, and if that's another strike, then, well, I think Percival Everett is likely not an author for me. So with that out of the way, I basically decided, okay, I'm going to read Lives of the Egyptians or Lives of the Ancient Egyptians by Toby Wilkinson over the weekend, because it's only about 276 pages, so I could get it in a weekend. Unfortunately, this one is also a bail. I could not connect with Wilkinson's writing. It's a collection of 100 short biographies of various ancient Egyptians. Now, in this case, it could also be external factors to reading. I was subject to a text barrage that did nothing but tick me off. So, but I did not connect with this at all, unfortunately. Wait, actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to go ahead and just put you back. There we go. So, on Sunday, I decided to read the work of Mark Wunderlich. Mark Wunderlich is an American poet who has to date published 4 collections of poetry. The Anchorage, which is his debut collection. I've never particularly cared for this collection. Some of the poems are very juvenile efforts or very sort of beginner efforts, and some point to Wunderlich's kind of general style. Voluntary Servitude is his second collection. It's my personal favorite. I bought this shortly after it came out, not this exact copy. This is a repurchase from a few years ago, and I enjoyed it. Although, unfortunately, this reading was disappointing. His third collection is The Earth Avails, which has a lot of really good poems in it, and the first time I read it, I quite liked it, but again, this reading week was just, yeah. So I ended up not enjoying it too much. And his most recent collection is God of Nothingness, which, when I first read it, it was a bit disappointing. And again, general theme of this week was this was disappointing as well. And I'm quite annoyed by that. So, moving on to my sort of second plan. So, on Monday, I made a video in which I kind of hinted that my initial reading plan for this week had fallen apart, and that I was going to basically pivot to manga for the work week. So, my initial plan was to read the first 6 volumes of Orient by Shinobu Ohtaka, and the first 3 omnibus editions of One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. So the thing about both these series, and so what I ended up wanting to do was I was going to do One Piece Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Orient Tuesday and Thursday. And the thing about both of these series is that I'm not too sure about either one. That I'm not enthusiastic about them as I am for like other series like Eden Zero or My Hero Academia or the others. So I wanted to give both of these series a good look over the course of this week to decide if I wanted to kind of continue with them or just not, just unhaul them at some point. So let's start with Orient by Shinobu Ohtaka. So Orient is a series set sometime after the Sengoku period of an alternate Japan. In this setting, instead of the Tokugawa clan uniting Japan, a kind of a race of demons impersonating gods invade Japan and unify the country. The demons are opposed by surviving bands of samurai. 2 young boys, Musashi and his friend Kojiro, aspire to join the samurai ranks when they get older and fight the demons. A few years later, Musashi is a student miner. The demons eat minerals, and so the mining profession is highly regarded amongst the the Japanese population. And Kojiro is an outcast, ostracized because of his samurai heritage. Eventually, the two start a rebellion in their home village and join as band of samurai and eventually formed their own group while fighting the demons. So I've been circling this series for years now. I've been meaning to get to it, and it just I haven't been interested. I tried it earlier this year or late last year, and I didn't want to. And then I kind of made the effort this week, and it didn't work out. And as I was thinking about it, I started to sort of get an inkling of why I'm not as fond of this series. I mean, I like the artwork. I mean, but there's something about the story, and I think in part it's world building that the I don't know, it's just I guess it's in a situation where these demons who are impersonating benevolent gods have so basically they've completely won. They control the education system. The people see them as benevolent gods. And so why exactly would, once your miners kind of graduate into like working in the mines, basically do what am I trying to say? Let me get to the page. Okay. I mean, is that really necessary? Unless, of course, they are just sadistic, you-know-whats. I mean, if, like, that sort of, you have this illusion and then it doesn't make sense. And also, how they would actually get away with it, since obviously you need them to actually go home so they can do other things. So, but I mean, the artwork is, I like the artwork. It's just like that part of this, it bugged me. And I don't really particularly care for Masashi as a character. And maybe also, I think in a way, is sort of the story idea necessarily amenable to your standard shonen hero? And I'm not entirely sure that quite works. So I think I'm probably not going to continue on with Orient. Although, while I was rearranging, or sort of my abortive attempt at moving my manga and history collections again, I kind of sort of almost convinced myself to give it a few months and then try again. But anyway, and sad to say, I also did not quite get on as well as I had hoped with One Piece. So One Piece is one of the most popular manga series in the world, and it has been for pretty much 25 years now. One Piece is a story of a young man named Monkey D. Luffy, whose village was, for a year when Luffy was 7 or 8, the base of a pirate crew. Luffy sort of became this crew's mascot when they were in the village. And Luffy, because of this connection, aspires to become a pirate himself, to become the king of the pirates. In this setting, there was this great pirate named Gold Roger who was the king of the pirates. And he left his treasure, the One Piece, hidden somewhere in the world. And whichever pirate captain finds the One Piece will themselves become king of the pirates. So Luffy leaves home. He goes adventuring. He gradually builds a crew, gets a ship. He saves people. He makes friends. He makes enemies. All the while, I'm not entirely sure if Luffy ever actually knows what it is a pirate is supposed to do or be. And I think that's one of my issues with the book, with the series, is Luffy, he's well-meaning, he's kind and brave and probably insane, but he's just not a pirate. He's basically an adventurer. I mean, and the whole point of this is it's the adventure. And kind of as he adventures, righting wrongs. But that doesn't really leave a lot of time for pirating. Although I guess you can argue, well, he's a pirate who specializes in attacking other pirates or more malevolent pirates. But it's just, I don't know. I mean, again, is it sort of that thing where you have this world building? The world of One Piece is very dystopic. It is very dark and really grimdark, with an authoritarian world government that is barely holding on. It's the world's awash in pirates. The Navy is either incompetent or corrupt or themselves insane. It's just, and I'm not entirely sure. It's like Luffy's character, it's too much of a contrast, I think, for me to really enjoy it. Although, I mean, there are some enjoyable moments. The fights are brilliant. The artwork is just amazing. But so I ended up, so I decided not to kind of read the other 3 volumes of Orient, and instead just did the first 4 omnibus editions, since I got the 4th one in yesterday. And so these 4 volumes contain volumes 1 through 12, which encompasses the East Blue Saga, the first big part of One Piece. So One Piece is divided into large sagas that can last for hundreds of chapters, and dozens of volumes. And within each of these big arcs, there are a number of smaller arcs. And yeah. So I do want to show some art, though, while I'm thinking about it. And if you're all at all curious of like seeing maybe a much more positive take on One Piece, I highly recommend Shelley Swearingen's One Piece videos. They are amazing. Okay. Let's do. Oh yeah, and then that whole scene from there. So yeah. So excuse me. So I don't know if what I'm going to do about One Piece. Because I didn't really enjoy these 12 volumes. And that's really, I think, been sort of my experience with One Piece is that I mean, they're okay, they're enjoyable, but I'm not really super into it, and I never have been. So that was this week. For next week, I'm going to sort of aim for 2. And if I need to pivot, then I will. And if not, then yeah. So I think over the weekend, I'm going to reread, after a long time, the collected poetry of Nikki Giovanni, 1968 to 1999. And Persian Fire by Tom Holland. So this is a history of the Greco-Persian conflict. Anyway, so that's been my weekly reads. I don't know if I have like set plans video-wise for next week. I don't know. So we'll see. Anyway, BookTube, thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend, and hopefully I will see you on Monday with a new video. So until then, thank you and stay safe.